Game. As I said after that game, I thought that it was a good game for us from the standpoint of answering some of the questions we had going into the 21 season about would we be a team that would overcome adversity. We'd shown in the first couple of games, I feel like we've played with a better discipline, but still not where we need to be, obviously. But this was one of the first games where I thought we had a chance to possibly fold under adversity, and was really pleased with the way the team responded. We preach not being scoreboard watchers, to play the next play and stay in the moment with each and every game, no matter the opponent, no matter the situation of the game, and then it really doesn't matter until the game is over. And I felt like our kids tried to do that against Illinois, and we're very successful in being able to do it. So coming out of that game, I feel very good about the direction of our culture in terms of being a team that will just play the game and let whatever happens happen in terms of the scoreboard, and not let it have any effect on us prior to the end of the game. I felt like we played for 4 quarters, and it was a tough game like we expected. Road wins in the Big Ten are always tough. Credit to Brett and his staff at Illinois that they had their guys ready to play, and we're very fortunate as a team to get out of there with a win. As far as Kent State, this week's opponent, again, you look at a team that, as I told our team yesterday, this is a team that's already played 2 top 10 football teams, and they didn't blink. And so I can tell you they won't come into the shell intimidated, because they've played, like I said, on the road against 2 top 10 teams. Texas A&M, I want to say the score was like 10-3 at the half, and then at Iowa, which is a tough place to play as well, it's 13-6 in the third quarter. So a veteran team, you look, I think, a lot of the schools there in the MAC conference have benefited from that COVID year because they had a lot of returning players that are graduates. So they've got a veteran group. When you look at what they do on defense, I think they've got to be one of the top teams in the country in terms of creating turnovers, which last week kind of showed back up for us on the offensive side of the ball. Those guys play really aggressively on the defensive side of a ball. They've got 3 players in their interior 7, that front 7, number 0, 15, that are really, really good players. On offense, their quarterback is the guy that makes them go. Crum is a savvy veteran quarterback that knows that system really, really well. Coach Lewis, Sean and his staff, they obviously have the Syracuse background. He was the offensive coordinator there when we played him in 2019, and their offensive system with the vertical read passing game, the tempo stuff, has been something that has created a lot of problems for teams over the years, and their quarterback is very, very good at running that system. They play 3 running backs that are all, a couple of guys from this area that we know a little bit about, that are all really good players. They've got a transfer in Nykeem Johnson, number 82, that played at Syracuse, was a teammate of Dante Demas is here. He's a slot receiver that will be a big threat for us because the guy is fast, can really, really run, and so he'll pose a great challenge for us. But all in all, again, this will be a good challenge for us. Being back here at the Shell, able to, again, maybe build on some things that and get some things corrected. When you're able to make corrections and coach your players hard after a tough road win like we had this weekend, my expectation is that our players will bounce back and try to get back to playing, at least offensively, with the type of the type of way we need to play in terms of protecting the football and making plays on third down and sustaining drives. And then obviously defensively, if there was one negative with the way we played on Friday a week ago, was we didn't get off the field on third down, which I think resulted in them getting 27 extra plays. So we'll work really hard to improve the third down stuff and the mistakes. We'll work hard at getting back to taking care of the football on offense this week, and looking forward to Kent State coming into the Shell. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Ryan, on the right.
Hey, Coach. I know last year your team only played 5 games, but in those 5 games, the teams only get, I believe, 2 interceptions on defense, and now this year it's 4 interceptions. What do you think maybe is the reason for the uptick in takeaways?
Anytime you're able to create turnovers the way we have on defense thus far, you got to give credit to the players. They're making the plays that are there available to make. I think Coach Stu and the defensive staff has done a great job from last year to this year, as we made a point of emphasis with the turnover differential from last season. Was a really big reason for how things ended up for us. To make that a point of something we need to be improving on, and we see it. The guys are making the plays in the passing game with the interceptions. We forced some fumbles. We're very fortunate to maybe be ahead in that turnover margin as opposed to what we was. But I think it's something that we've really tried to make a point of emphasis on the defensive side of the ball.
Maybe this sounds really simple, but I'm curious with the depth at receiver, how do you keep all the guys happy, just from a personal standpoint, when you have guys who could maybe be the top guy somewhere else in our third, fourth here?
Yeah, I think it's their job to keep us happy, Emily. And they do that by the way they practice, the way they block on the perimeter, the way they're unselfish. I'm not new. This isn't my first rodeo with having a lot of talented receivers in one room. One of the things I've always tried to do, and I know it's something that Dan has kind of adapted as well, is as long as those guys get their targets and their touches, which means they get opportunities, they usually are pretty good. And this room has been really unselfish, as has most of the rooms. When you build that camaraderie in there, they really don't care if it's them or their brother that's getting the touches. But I think if you look at the way the ball was spread around on Friday, Jay Sean had 4 or 5 catches. Darryl Jones had 4 or 5. Rock had 4 or 5. Dante had 5 to 7. The tight ends are all involved. So I just think the diversity in which we try to distribute the ball and how Dan calls the plays to get your playmakers the ball or get them their touches makes it a little easier for those guys, because they do work hard. They're all very unselfish. You see guys like Brian Cobbs, who, like I said, is like he is a starter for us, and maybe not getting the touches or making the contribution that he would like, but I see him still going out there doing all the little things right, and when he gets his opportunities, he's prepared for them. So, very unselfish group, and I know they all pull for each other.
Charlotte?
Hey there, Coach.
What's up?
Looking through this roster, you see guys like Dante, Rakim, Nick Cross. There's a lot of guys that are making impacts that are from right here in the DMV. I know you heavily recruit out of this area. What is it about this area that produces such good talent? You mentioned some of the guys even on Kent State.
I think the big thing is that the coaching in this area is really, when I was growing up, this was more known for its basketball, more known as a basketball area. One of the benefits of being a basketball area is obviously the athleticism. But what I've seen since, I've been recruiting this area since 1992, when I first got into coaching, is just the level of coaching in the high school ranks, the youth football has really, really improved, and now you're starting to see, players at a younger age being a little more further along in their ability, whereas you used to get a really raw player who had skill and size, but maybe hadn't been coached as much or as well, because a lot of times these guys play multiple sports and they don't have a chance to improve exponentially like you would when you focus on it. So I have to give credit, obviously, when you look across the country and you look in this area, we usually have 3 or 4 high school teams that are ranked in the top 25 in the country. So to me, that speaks volumes to the level of football that the players we have in this area within a 45-hour drive of campus. I think the coaching here has just continued to get better and better. As we always say, as part of being a flagship university, it's our job to provide the resources to these high schools and youth programs, which we have an open door policy. They come visit us, they come watch practice. They're all trying to improve their craft to be better coaches, which in turn I think presents us with the opportunity to recruit better players.
Brian, you ready?
Hey, Coach. Going back to the defense, I just want to get your overall thoughts on how the defense has performed through these first 3 games. Or have they lived up to your standards, or are they exceeding your expectation you have for them?
Well, I think they're living up to our standard, not necessarily mine. Our standards that we set are team oriented, and our defense is living up to our standard. Obviously, coming into the year, there were some things that we made a point of emphasis: stopping the run, creating turnovers, limiting big plays, and through 3 games, I've been really pleased with it. Is it perfect? No. I mean, like I said, we've got to do a better job playing on 3rd down. I thought the missed tackles showed up in the Illinois game, where we had a lot of missed tackles in the perimeter, which of those are things that, as I talked to our team about, individually we can work on getting corrected. But I do think with some of the focus we put on stopping the run, creating turnovers, limiting big plays. I've been pleased with that, and I feel like our players have bought into it.
Believe in the back.
Coach, you mentioned how Kent State had a few guys from this area. One that sticks out is Marquez Cooper, who leads their rush right now. How much of a challenge does he present for you, as you highlighted you wanted to stop the run, knowing that he'll be a big part of their game plan on this Thursday, Saturday?
Yeah, I think the big thing with him is obviously the offensive line is what makes them go, and they've got a bunch of clones across the front five of their O-line. They do a really good job. They play hard. He's one of those little backs that kind of gets hidden behind those big old linemen, and then he has the short area quickness that presents trouble. I think the big thing for us, as we've done the first few games, it's important to say, hey, you're not going to beat us running the football by how we either load the box up or we make adjustments and bring safeties down to add the extra defender. And then it puts a little pressure on our secondary, which has really showed up and responded the right way in terms of how we're covering on the back end. So definitely a good player for them. Has the ability to make plays, really explosive runner that, like I said, if he sees a little crease, he's able to accelerate through there. So we got to do a good job of team defense against him.
Okay.
Hey, Coach, I know the special teams is kind of an area of emphasis heading into the season, and I know the first few weeks, especially on kicks and punt returns, have been a little bit up and down. So what are you guys going to try to do to clean that up and make sure that there's no more muffs going forward?
I thought the last couple of weeks our special teams have played pretty well. I mean, we had a big return 2 weeks ago. Obviously, have there been mistakes? Yeah, there are mistakes just like we have on offense and defense. For Tarheeb to fill the punt, running back inside the 10, that's a game experience for him. He's only returned punts for 3 games for us. So it's a learning curve there. It's something that once he does it, he'll learn. It's not like we haven't taught him. You don't run back, but again, they had a great special teams kicker and punter there at Illinois. He got kind of lost where he was on the field when he went back to fielding, and we'll live and learn with those things. But I think the element that he and Jay Sean present as returners, having Rakim and Dante Demas back there, we haven't had a chance to return a kick last week because of their specialists and how talented they were. But our kickoff cover unit after the first game has really improved, and we've done a great job there. Our punt team we won the field position battle with punt team last week, so maybe not as far back as maybe you've presented it to me in your question, but we're playing a lot of young players on special teams, and I think we'll continue to get better with each game.
Coach, game 1 and game 3, West Virginia and Illinois, seemed like at the end of the game you were physically superior those last few minutes, which helped your victory. And yet you had a targeting call, a near targeting call, some really aggressive hits. How do you balance that? You want aggressiveness.
Well, we're going to let the refs make those calls. I promise you that our players don't aim when they go to tackle to target. Obviously, we've made coaching points on the rule emphasis of blocking back toward the ball, and we had one of those on the interception return where the defender becomes an offensive player, and the days of crackback blocking guys, you can't do it anymore, and we'll continue to emphasize that. But Gators play was, my grandma would have been able to call targeting on it. It was, you don't launch yourself in the player. So that's one that, just got to be make smarter plays. And so we'll continue to coach through those type of things. But with Jordan Mosley's, it was almost, but he didn't. He led with the shoulder. He was hitting below the shoulders of the defender. The refs got it right. So, I'm not going to try to take the teeth out of our defense. We'll make the referees call it. We'll play aggressive. We'll play clean. And sometimes those calls just happen the way, the runners nowadays can present themselves, and, the target changes. So what I'm not going to do is have us play tentative and not aggressive. So we'll let the refs make those calls, and we'll make adjustments if they become targeting and put the next guy in there.
Coach Sam Okuwanu, he has 4 sacks to 3
Good
games.
job with the name, man. Okuwanu.
Thank you. I was practicing it before. So he also had 2 sacks at Illinois. Can you just speak to him as a player and what he means to this defense as a whole?
Yeah, I think the big thing with Sam O is, again, I said this a few weeks ago, guys like him and Fleet Davis have really benefited from the COVID year. A guy that didn't play football until like his junior year of high school, was a soccer player, moved over to the country late, so he's not like he grew up as a football player. And I just think being able to add this extra year to him has really helped and benefited our team because he's as explosive as any player in the country. I mean, he's a guy that has a 600-pound type squat. He's a 500 bench guy. Like, he's a freak in the weight room. And as he's gained football experience and playing and taking the techniques that Brian Williams teaches him, he continues to get better and better. And I think he's putting himself in a position where he'll be a guy, because of what he's doing, he's creating some value for himself that may afford him an opportunity to play at the next level. And it's great to see that for a guy like Sam Moe because, again, young to the game of football, but just keeps getting better and better and has been a tremendous leader for us coming back for that extra year.
Ryan and then Jacob.
Man, you get 3 questions. Who you paying on?
Coach, Nick Cross had a solid game against Illinois. Just what are your thoughts on that performance and what he's done and his growth in year 3?
Yeah, I've been pleased with Nick's growth. He's one of those guys that came in, really heralded, coming playing right down the road at DeMatha. Has been pretty much a starter since the time he got on campus. I think, like with all young players, I mean, he's a young junior. I mean, when you look at, he played 5 games last year, played in 12 his first year. He's still 17 games in and in 3 thus far. I think he'll be a guy that just continues to get better. He has a tremendous skill set with his range and size. And I think the thing that's really kind of showed up this year for us is just how physical he is when he makes contact. He's running through people. He's done a great job of being a physical presence in a deep third of the field for us. And now he's showing that he can make the play in the air. When the ball's in the air, he's been able to go get a couple picks. So I'm really pleased with his progress, where he is, and even more pleased that he started to develop the leadership that you want to see out of a third-year guy that's played a lot of football around.
Hey, Coach, after another strong performance from Talia and getting the chance to look over that with film, where are you just hoping, where do you and Coach Enos hope that he goes from here?
I hope he keeps getting better and better from here. That's the goal, is to try to present yourself to get better each and every day. We always talk about chasing being 1% better every day, and then it becomes something special. But I've been pleased with Lee. I thought, early in that game, I thought he, obviously playing on the road for the first time this year, and it was a great environment up there in Champaign that it took him a little while to get settled down, but once he kind of settled down and got an idea of what they were trying to do to affect him, because they did try to change the picture up on him, and he was able to settle down and get to being disciplined with his eyes and where the ball needed to go. And, I thought, the last 4 drives, we had the fumble in the red area and then the one play fumble with Penny Boone. But, I thought the whole second half, there wasn't a time I felt they had done anything to necessarily stop us. We pretty much stopped ourselves. And Leah played really well down the stretch when we needed him to. Executed the 2-minute offense a couple of different times, got us in position to tie it, got us in position to win it with some big throws. And I think that's what we've come to expect, and our players in our program have a lot of confidence and faith in them.
You hand it back to Charlotte. We'll take 2 or 3 more.
Coach, you've been talking about how proud you are of their ability to overcome adversity in this last game. When you look at the offense as a whole, I guess, what kind of sets this offense and this team apart from maybe other offenses you've had in the past, and what makes you most proud about what they've been able to accomplish in just these 3 games?
Yeah, it's so hard to compare the offenses, through the years, because I think they each have their own unique characteristics. But I think what really shows up with this group is, one, the growth of our offensive line. I talked about it earlier in the year that, it's the one group I thought that made the biggest jump of all of our positions last year. We don't have the depth that we would need and that we're going to need, but we've been very fortunate that we've been able to maintain the same starting 5. And, with Emilio Moran and DJ Glaze both rotating in, we've given ourselves 7 guys that we've been playing with. So I like the way they've kept our quarterback protected. I like the way that we've been able to establish the ability to run the football, to create balance. We all know that we've got a strong core in terms of our receivers. We feel strongly about our quarterback, and we feel like we've got 3 really good tailbacks that all have contributed. So, it's the team effort, but if there's anything I've been the most proud of, and up until this past game, was we hadn't turned it over and we hadn't had any penalties. And so to me, to be a good offense, it starts with not beating yourself first. last weekend we gave them a couple. You know, the red zone fumble that we had with Fleet, you know, would have gave us a chance to go up and maybe have crushed the spirit there of Illinois, but instead it created a momentum swing on their part where they drove it down and scored a touchdown to tie it. So to me, I've just been pleased that we've been playing clean football for the most part, and we got to get the fumbles obviously fixed this week that we had last week, because this Kent State group, they've been really good at forcing turnovers, and they're all over the ball. They got veteran players that strip the ball out, they get interceptions, they're very multiple what they do, so we got to be really smart in taking care of the football.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much.